Welcome to the Hustling podcast. Today we are joined by Michael Abernathy, the President and CEO at Buckeye State Credit Union, a community development financial institution. Hi there, Michael. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Please do, before we jump into the conversation, tell us about Buckeye.
So Buckeye State Credit Union, we are a 90-year-old financial institution based out of Northeast Ohio here in the United States. Originally founded to support the Akron area postal workers, in fact. But over the course of 90 years, we have grown and we serve more than just that. We serve the entire community. Anybody who lives within our field of membership or works within our field of membership, they're welcome to join. But we serve a community for banking and lending. So anywhere from trying to get a mortgage to a car loan to a credit card personal loan, even just a checking account. We're just like any of the banks out there. So it's just a little bit of a different ownership structure and a little bit of a different regulatory structure. But by and large, this is a complete financial institution out here trying to help people, specifically those that are in need. We are,
Sure.
as you said before, a community development financial institution, which specializes in assisting people that may have challenged credit and may be more in the low income community, but that doesn't restrict us. We're able to help everybody, but we're certainly an option for those that may have been left behind by some of the larger banks.
Nice. For an institution that has existed for this long, I'm sure, there've been a lot of changes, in the landscape and in the industry. Have those changed, how you guys do your business and your offering? Please do walk us through that.
Sure. So in the last, let's say, 15 to 20 years, a lot more government regulation, monitoring a lot more of what we're doing. So they're coming in and they're taking a look at our financial strength, a lot of our defenses against fraud, making sure that people's money is safe, whether it's from fraud at a branch level, credit card fraud, or even cyber attacks. So there's a lot more vulnerability out there as technology advances. So we have to keep up with those practices by increasing our capabilities to fight off different types of fraud, including cyber. Other things that continue to develop is technology as a whole. We think about when our parents started banking, it was very simple. Go to the bank, cash a check, get cash, deposit it. Maybe you write a check, but now we have debit cards, credit cards, we have online banking, bill pay, and then throw on top of that these digital payments, person-to-person payments, and a lot of artificial intelligence has been jumping in as well. Artificial intelligence in underwriting, communications, even onboarding our new members and sending out communications outside of the organization. There's just a lot of new technology, and it takes some time to keep up with all that technology, but those that keep up with it are at an advantage and are able to better serve their communities that they're within.
I think this part of the conversation sort of segues nicely into my next question, because I was going to ask about what kind of unique challenges that you guys are tackling at the moment. And I mean, you've touched on how the emergence of technology has sort of seen you guys sort of needing different kind of skills from folks that are quite well versed in that space. What does that look like? I'm sure, as I said, there are different unique challenges that you guys are tackling. And I ask that question again because we have a network of contract workers, side hustlers that might come handy for some of that challenge, for some of those challenges. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different challenges. To give you some context, I have to provide context. So Buckeye State Credit Union, as an older financial institution, has gone through some different iterations of its identity. And when I came to Buckeye in 2016, the credit union was near failure. It was at a point where it was almost insolvent, and we had to take on a very, very large undertaking just to survive. We had to become very lean, but we had to take risk in areas that financial institutions don't normally take risk in, and it paid off. And so we went from nearly being insolvent to being extremely profitable and a very strong credit union, 7 years later. So part of the journey for us has been, when I first came on board, it was trying to rally the employees to, let's save this place. This place is worth saving. It's been around for so long. Let's rally together. Let's make the necessary changes, and let's make it happen. Once we started to see the success, we were able to point back and say, look at those bad times and look where we are now. And really rally them again to say, let's keep pushing this thing forward. Now we get to a point where it's like, okay, we've gone through a few iterations. What's next? What is actually going to be our identity going into the future? We don't want to give up the things that got us here, but how do we continue to add on to it? What else can we bring to the public that we haven't already brought? And as technology continues to evolve, that's where we have to continue to go down that path. But there's the financial system right now creates a challenge of itself, and that is the accessibility of cash and liquidity tightness in all businesses. As the United States Federal Reserve continues to increase the interest rates throughout the country, it makes it much more difficult to get working capital. Now, as good leaders of financial institutions, we mitigate those things and we work through them. But some of the things that we are looking for is a transitioning of our sales staff. Our sales staff has been very aggressively pursuing loans, and we're very good at it. And we are able to do loans for people that others will not do. But now we're in this position where we actually have to change our identity a bit because we're not lending as much. We have backed off lending. It's not something that is the top priority anymore. The top priority is we need to acquire new members. We need to acquire new deposits and continue to strengthen our cash liquidity within the organization. And that's kind of the challenge, is trying to get a flip of the mindset from, selling one way and now flipping to selling another. It goes from having a need, somebody needs to buy a house, refinance their house, buy a car, to they may not have a need for getting a checking account with another institution. We're combating very, very large banks. Even though we are relatively small, it's very difficult to compete with PNC, Chase, Wells, Bank of America, etc. So the challenge we face is, in business, you can be one of three things. You can be better than, less than, or different than. And this is something that I've heard from a business executive and podcasts I listen to that we have really embraced. And so we understand what we're better at. We understand where we're less than. There's definitely a lot of things when you don't have the resources of the big banks, you're going to be less than. So you want to avoid those. But the key differentiation is, playing in the words, is how can we be different than and provide something that the others are not providing? And so that's the challenge, because when we were doing lending and we were focused on lending, that was easy. Now we're trying to identify how can we be different than when it comes to member or client acquisition and growing deposits. And so these are areas where we are continuing to improve and grow, but it is still an ongoing challenge, because when you're dealing with a loan, there is a very clear issue you're trying to solve. You're trying to solve for, this person needs this. They need to borrow the money to get this. When it comes to acquiring, new accounts and new clients, new members, it's a much more gray area. So that's a big challenge for us. It's a big challenge for our sales team.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned quite a few there, and as I mentioned, I mean, when you think about the kind of the talent and folks that might be able to sort of meet this challenge halfway, what kind of skills come to mind in terms of the people that you might possibly potentially be looking for to come and join, the institution?
People who are not afraid to fail, but people that are willing to embrace a culture that is, we play hard, but we work hard. We are a very fun and active and engaged financial institution. And we have very high employee experience scores, top workplaces 5 years in a row, top credit union to work for 2 years in a row, according to American Banker. So we're doing a lot of those great things. So people need to come in and be able to and embrace a fast pace and a lot of times independent environment. We do not micromanage. We're not here to tell you step by step by step what to do. We need go getters that have their own ideas and are going to be able to execute them within a broader strategy, but also just not being afraid to get out there and get in front of people and just engage. Because we look at today's society as very digital. It's very much in a phone. It's very much in a tablet. We're even getting to the point where people are using their watches and all sorts of different devices to communicate, when the reality is sitting across from somebody having a conversation and making a true connection can be the difference between getting a deal and not getting a deal. Because at the end of the day, we're not always going to have the best pricing. We're not always going to have the best fee structure. There has to be intangibles that a strong salesperson within our environment can go out and bring to life to a potential client or member that would make them say, you know what, I want to do business with Buckeye. And a lot of the great things we do, especially in the community development space and the money we put back in through charitable donations, the types of lending we do, there's a lot of people out there that if they hear that story, they want to be involved. They say, you know what, if I'm going to deposit my money somewhere, I want it to go somewhere where it's going to actually help people and not enrich shareholders or stockholders or a private owner. We're owned by our members. Every single member has an equal share of ownership in the credit union. An individual can't come and just buy us. A bank just can't come in and go into a hostile takeover. We are a very democratically run institution. So those are some things that could be sold out there, but it's a matter of getting the person who can create the story, passionately tell the story, and do it with charisma that people are buying into, not just our vision, but our culture.
Hmm, I like that. Before I let you go, Mike, earlier on you also spoke to the emergence of technology and how sometimes the need is also just around, visibility and communication of brands. Would you say that also marketing is a space where you guys are looking for talent?
Yeah, we are just starting to grow our marketing space. We have a new marketing manager, and we are starting to grow that area. Uh, it's very apparent that it's not traditional marketing anymore. It's not just TV commercials and radio. We're seeing far fewer people are actually watching TV, and when they do, they're trying to skip through. So what we're trying to figure out is what are the best avenues to put our message out on. Social media is obviously great, but there are so many different pathways to getting somebody's attention and bring awareness that we don't know, that it's so important that we have some of these outside of the box thinking. And I hate that term, but it's the only one that comes to mind, is to be able to find somebody, and or more than just one person, but people who understand what those avenues are, the logistics. There's a lot of creative people, but they don't necessarily, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how great the message is if nobody sees it. So creativity is one aspect of it, but when it comes to marketing, logistics is just as important. Where are we sending the message? Who's seeing it? What's the likelihood it's getting in front of the audience we want it in front of? So yeah, absolutely. Getting people out there with that marketing knowledge and the idea of how they can spread the message and the word is vastly important to any business, just not just financial institutions.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah, Mike, there's quite a lot to think about there. If folks are interested in getting in touch, where can they find you online? Social media platforms, website, where can they go?
Yeah, so we're on every social media platform, Buckeye State Credit Union, and you can also find us on our webpage, www.buckeyecu.org.
Mike, thank you so much for your time. It's been brilliant.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.